At exactly 3:17 p.m., while snow fell silently outside his small suburban house, Marcus Johnson stared at his phone in horror. A flirty text never meant for her had just been sent to Evelyn Wright, the cold CEO of the pharmaceutical company that controlled his daughter's last chance to live. 5 minutes. That was all he had before the knock came. Outside, beneath the falling snow, stood the woman known as the Ice Queen, her eyes locked on his door. And his fate. Marcus Johnson had been a high school history teacher for 12 years. He knew dates, battles, treaties, the logic of cause and effect. But at 3:17 p.m., on a Tuesday in February, his understanding of consequences shattered. The text was meant for Sarah, a fellow teacher who'd been flirting with him for weeks. Something light, something human, something that reminded him he was still a 34-year-old man, not just a father watching his daughter fade. Asterisk. You have the most incredible smile. Makes me forget everything else for a while. Coffee this weekend? Asterisk. His thumb hovered over Sarah's name in his contacts. Sarah Mitchell. Right above Sarah in his recent calls was another name. He pressed send. 3 seconds of peace. Then his eyes focused. No, 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 no. The message sat there, delivered, red receipt already showing. Sent to Evelyn Wright, CEO of Wright Pharmaceuticals. The woman who held the keys to the clinical trial that represented Amara's last hope. His 8-year-old daughter had autoimmune polyendocrine syndrome type 1, a genetic disorder so rare that only 300 cases existed worldwide. 4 months ago, Wright Pharmaceuticals had announced a groundbreaking trial. 4 months of applications, medical records, desperate phone calls. 4 months of rejection letters citing incomplete documentation and insufficient qualifying criteria. Marcus had spent those months teaching Civil War history to bored teenagers while his daughter grew weaker. Every night, he'd resubmit forms. Every morning, automated responses arrived. Outside, snow began to fall harder. February in northern Illinois meant gray skies and relentless cold. The kind of winter that made you forget spring existed. His phone buzzed. One word. Asterisk. Address. Asterisk. His fingers went numb. She couldn't be serious. CEOs didn't respond to accidental texts from desperate parents. They had assistants delete messages, security teams handle inappropriate contact. But Marcus had spent 4 months researching Evelyn Wright. He knew she'd built Wright Pharmaceuticals from nothing after her previous company fired her for being too aggressive. He knew she worked 18-hour days. He knew the media called her the Ice Queen, brilliant, ruthless, untouchable. He didn't know she'd respond in 90 seconds. His hands shook as he typed his address. What choice did he have? Ignoring her would be worse. Lying would be catastrophic. The truth, humiliating as it was his only option. Another buzz. Asterisk. 5 minutes. Asterisk. Marcus looked at the living room. Amara's medical equipment occupied one corner IV stand, medication organizer, pulse oximeter. Toys scattered across the floor. Medical bills stacked on the coffee table. The space heater running constantly because Amara always felt cold now. This was his life. This was what Evelyn Wright would see when she knocked on his door. He heard Amara's voice from her bedroom, singing softly to her stuffed rabbit. She'd been too tired for school this week. Too tired for much of anything except lying in bed with her books and animals. The text mistake suddenly felt smaller than the real mistake. The 4 months he'd wasted believing the system would work. That paperwork and patience would save her. Through the window, he watched a black Mercedes pull up to the curb. The snow fell thick now, coating the windshield within seconds. The driver's door opened. Evelyn Wright stepped out. She wore a charcoal coat that probably cost more than his monthly salary. Her dark hair pulled back in a style that suggested she had neither time nor patience for anything impractical. Even from 40 feet away, through falling snow, Marcus could see the sharp assessment in her eyes. She didn't hurry. didn't rush through the snow. She walked with the measured pace of someone who'd calculated exactly how long this would take. The knock came at exactly 3:22 p.m. 5 minutes. She'd promised 5 minutes, and she'd delivered. Marcus opened the door, and Winter rushed in. Evelyn Wright stood on his doorstep like a figure from another dimension. Behind her, the suburban street looked grainy through the snow. Modest houses, old cars, chain-link fences. She didn't belong here. Mr. Johnson. Not a question. Miss Wright? I'm so sorry, Marcus started, but she was already stepping inside, brushing snow from her shoulders with efficient movements. She stopped 3 feet past the threshold. Her gaze swept the room with the systematic precision of someone trained to assess situations quickly. Medical equipment, toys, bills, the faint smell of chicken soup on the stove, the space heater's persistent hum. The text was a mistake, Marcus said. His voice came out steadier than he felt. It was meant for someone else. I understand if you want to. Where is she? The question cut through his apology. Evelyn's eyes had landed on the wall of medical charts Marcus kept by the kitchen. Amara's temperature logs, medication schedules, symptom tracking, organized with the desperate precision of a parent trying to find patterns in chaos. She's resting. Please, Miss Wright. I never meant to. Daddy? Amara's voice floated from the hallway. Small footsteps approached. His daughter appeared in her winter pajamas, the ones with tiny snowflakes that she'd begged for last Christmas. She looked impossibly small. Her dark skin had taken on an ashen quality lately, her eyes too large in her thinning face. The port for her IV medications showed beneath her collar. Evelyn Wright's expression didn't change. But something shifted in the air, a microscopic crack in the frozen surface. "Hi," Amara said, suddenly shy. She pressed against Marcus's leg. "Are you Daddy's friend?" Evelyn moved. It wasn't the motion Marcus expected. No awkward adult distance from a sick child. No visible discomfort. She crossed the room and lowered herself until she was eye level with Amara, one knee on the worn carpet. "I'm Evelyn," she said. Her voice had changed, softer but not condescending. Direct. "You have a very brave dad." "I know," Amara said seriously. "He's the bravest dad ever. He fights monsters." "What kind of monsters?" "The kind in my body." Amara said it, matter-of-factly. The way 8-year-olds spoke about things adults struggled to voice. But sometimes the monsters are winning. Marcus felt something break in his chest. He'd worked so hard to keep fear out of their conversations, to frame everything as battles they were winning together. But Amara was smart. She knew. Evelyn held Amara's gaze. "Then we'll have to fight harder." "Are you a fighter too?" Amara asked. "Good. Daddy needs help. He gets really tired." Evelyn stood, her movements controlled. She looked at Marcus with an expression he couldn't read. "Your application for the clinical trial. Show me everything." It wasn't a request. Marcus gestured toward the dining table, buried under 4 months of documentation. "It's all there. Every rejection, every resubmission, every 10. Get it." Evelyn removed her coat, revealing a crisp white shirt and dark slacks. She sat at his dining table like she was settling into a war room. Outside, the snow continued to fall. Inside, something had shifted. Marcus didn't know what yet. But for the first time in 4 months, the word hope felt less like a lie. Marcus spread the documents across the table. 4 months of rejection became a paper landscape of bureaucratic cruelty. Evelyn pulled reading glasses from her bag, the first gesture that made her seem remotely human, and began reading. Her silence was absolute. She didn't ask questions, didn't interrupt as Marcus explained the timeline. Application submitted November 1st. First rejection November 15th. Incomplete medical history. Resubmission November 22nd with complete records from 3 specialists. Second rejection December 3rd. Insufficient genetic testing documentation. Third submission, December 10th with full genetic panel results. The pattern continued through January. Each rejection cited different technical deficiencies. Each resubmission met new requirements that hadn't existed before. "This doesn't make sense," Marcus said, his frustration finally bleeding through. "Every criterion your company published Amara meets them. Rare autoimmune disorder, genetic confirmation, failed conventional treatment, age between 6 and 12. We qualify." "She qualifies." Evelyn said nothing. Her finger traced down a page, then another. She pulled out her phone, typed rapidly, then set it face down with deliberate control. "The trial has 48 slots," Marcus continued. "Your press release said you received over 2,000 applications. I understand odds. I teach probability to sophomores. But this," he gestured at the papers, "this isn't about odds. Someone is actively blocking us." "Why would someone do that?" Evelyn asked. Her voice remained neutral, but Marcus had learned to teach teenagers he could hear the edge of something underneath. "I don't know. Maybe they think we can't afford follow-up care. Maybe they have biases about single parents." Maybe he stopped. The next words felt too dangerous, but he'd already destroyed everything with one mistaken text. What was left to lose? Maybe they don't think some lives are worth saving. Evelyn's eyes lifted from the papers. In the afternoon, light filtering through the snow-heavy windows, Marcus saw something flicker across her face. Recognition. Or memory. Something old and sharp. 4 months, she said quietly. "You've been trying for 4 months. Every single day." "I'm a history teacher, Miss Wright. I make $48,000 a year. I can't hire lawyers. I can't make donations to get meetings. All I have is paperwork and desperation." His voice cracked. "And apparently, I have poorly aimed text messages." Amara's voice drifted from her room, singing to her stuffed animals, a made-up song about snowflakes and rabbits. Marcus watched Evelyn's expression shift again, that microscopic adjustment. Like ice developing a hairline fracture. "The trial coordinator," Evelyn said. "Did you interact with anyone besides automated systems?" "Once. A program manager named Daniel Hastings. He called in December to say my documentation didn't meet standards. When I asked which standards, he said he couldn't discuss specific requirements due to protocol." Evelyn's jaw tightened. "Daniel Hastings. You know him?" "He's my ex-husband." The words dropped into the room like stones through thin ice. Marcus stared at her. "He works for you?" "He works for the trial division." "Technically, yes. Practically." She stopped. Her fingers drummed once on the table, a singular gesture of agitation. "He has autonomy in participant selection. I don't interfere with clinical decisions. That's the ethical boundary, unless someone's abusing it." Evelyn gathered the papers into precise stacks. Her movements had shifted from controlled to rigid. "Daniel and I divorced 3 years ago. The settlement was contentious. He believes I destroyed his reputation in the industry." "Did you?" "I told the truth about his research practices. If that destroyed his reputation, the responsibility is his." She stood. "I'll need to take these documents. I'll have them back to you within 24 hours. Miss Wright." "Evelyn." The correction came sharp. "If someone in my company is playing games with sick children, we're past formalities." Through the window, the snow was falling so thick now that Marcus could barely see the street. Winter had fully arrived. But inside, something was beginning to thaw. Evelyn didn't move toward the door. She stood with Marcus's documents in hand, her gaze fixed on the window. Snow accumulated on the sill outside, soft and relentless. "My sister was 9 when she died," Evelyn said. The words arrived without preamble, without context. Marcus froze. "Claire, 23 years ago. February. Like now." Evelyn's voice remained steady, clinical. But her hand had tightened on the papers. "Juvenile dermatomyositis. Rare autoimmune disorder. Treatment options were limited then. Experimental therapies existed, but access was complicated. Marcus felt something shift in his understanding. I'm sorry. My parents spent 2 years fighting the system. Insurance denials, experimental trial rejections. By the time she qualified for a study, her organs were too damaged. She died 3 weeks after her 9th birthday. Evelyn turned from the window. The cemetery was covered in snow. I remember thinking winter would never end. The vulnerability lasted only seconds before her professional mask returned. But Marcus had seen it, the wound that never healed. The reason a brilliant scientist had built a pharmaceutical empire. That's why you started your company, he said. Part of why. I wanted to create treatments that insurance companies couldn't deny. Trials that accepted patients based on medical need, not profit margins. Her expression hardened. I won't have someone in my organization gatekeeping access because of personal vendettas or prejudice, even if it's your ex-husband, especially then. Evelyn moved toward the door, then paused. The text you sent. It wasn't entirely inaccurate. Marcus blinked. What? You wrote that I have an incredible smile. I don't smile often. But when I do, the corner of her mouth lifted fractionally. My sister used to say it made her forget she was sick. For a while, before Marcus could respond, Amara appeared in the hallway again. She'd brought her favorite book, a worn copy of a story about winter animals. Will you come back? Amara asked Evelyn. Promise? Evelyn crouched again, meeting Amara's eyes with the same directness she'd shown earlier. I promise. And I don't break promises. Okay. Amara seemed satisfied. She held up her book. Next time, can you read to me? Daddy does good voices, but he always falls asleep during the long parts. Amara. Marcus started, embarrassed. I work very late, Evelyn said to Amara, ignoring Marcus. But I'll read to you. What's your favorite story? The one about the snow fox who finds her family. Something crossed Evelyn's face, recognition or pain, or both. That was my sister's favorite too. She left quickly after that, stepping into the snow without another word. Marcus watched through the window as she sat in her car for a long moment before starting the engine. Even from inside, he could see her hands gripping the steering wheel. When the Mercedes pulled away, Amara tugged on his sleeve. Daddy, is she going to help us? Marcus looked down at his daughter, at her hopeful eyes, her thin frame, her unshakable faith that adults could fix things. He'd spent 4 months trying not to lie to her. I think so, baby. I really think so. Outside, the snow fell heavier. But for the first time since November, Marcus felt warmth returning to his chest. Evelyn Wright returned to her office at 4:47 p.m. Her assistant, Catherine Park, looked up with practiced caution. Clear my evening, Evelyn said. Get me every application file for the APS-1 trial. All 2,000. And find Daniel Hastings. 20 minutes. Miss Wright, the board meeting at 6. Cancel it. Catherine knew when to execute without question. This was one of those moments. Evelyn's office occupied the 23rd floor overlooking Chicago. She dropped Marcus's documents on her desk and began making calls. First, Dr. Lisa Hammond, head of clinical trials, the APS-1 trial coordinator. I need the selection algorithm and every manual override in the past 4 months. Evelyn, it's almost 5. Now. Second, her lawyer, Robert Chen, review the divorce settlement, specifically Daniel's employment conduct standards. What's he done? Potentially abused his position to block qualified trial participants. That's grounds for termination. I'm about to prove it. She opened the trial database. 2,347 applications, 48 acceptances. She began filtering by rejection reasons. Patterns emerged within minutes. Applications from single parents, 73% rejection rate. Below median income, 68%. Minority families, 71%. This wasn't random. This was systematic filtering. Dr. Hammond's email arrived. Trial selection data. Evelyn opened it and felt rage crystallize. The algorithm had flagged 322 qualified candidates. Daniel Hastings had manually reviewed them all. His override rate, 41%. His notes used phrases like insufficient family stability, questionable compliance likelihood, inadequate home environment. Subjective criteria. Nowhere in the protocol. Amara Johnson's file. Asterisk. Single-parent household. Financial instability indicators. Recommend rejection despite technical qualification. Asterisk. The door opened. Daniel Hastings entered with practiced confidence 47, silver-threaded hair, the bearing of someone who believed himself untouchable. Evelyn. Clinical trials have independence protocols. Sit down. He sat. Evelyn turned her monitor toward him. Explain this. Daniel glanced at the screen. His posture adjusted the moment he realized he'd been caught. I applied clinical judgment. You applied bias. Systematic, documented bias. Evelyn's voice remained level. This was why they called her the Ice Queen. She didn't need volume to destroy. You rejected 300 qualified children because you decided their families weren't good enough. That's a serious accusation. It's documented fact, including an 8-year-old girl whose father has spent 4 months fighting for her life. Daniel's jaw tightened. You're really doing this over some teacher who sent you a pathetic text? I'm doing this because you violated every principle this company was built on. Evelyn stood. You're suspended immediately. HR will contact you tomorrow. Security will escort you out. The board won't support you. The board doesn't know yet that your trial manipulation exposes us to massive liability. When I present this data tomorrow, they'll support whatever I recommend. She opened the door. 2 security officers waited. We're done. Daniel stood slowly. You always were heartless. Claire would be ashamed. Evelyn's expression didn't flicker. Get out of my building. As security led him away, she pulled out her phone. Typed to Marcus Johnson. Asterisk. Your daughter is approved for the trial. Start date, Monday. Asterisk. Then she called Catherine. Get me every application. Daniel rejected. If they're still qualified, I want them in the trial. We only have 48 slots. Then expand it. I don't care what it costs. Outside, snow continued to fall over Chicago. But inside, Evelyn felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Purpose, clean and sharp as winter air. Marcus was heating soup when his phone buzzed. He'd been running on autopilot since Evelyn left feeding Amara, checking her temperature, organizing medications, the routine that kept him from thinking too much about hope. The message stopped him mid-stir. Asterisk. Your daughter is approved for the trial. Start date, Monday. Asterisk. He read it 3 times. Then his knees gave out, and he sat hard on the kitchen floor. Daddy? Amara called from the living room. Did you drop something? He couldn't speak. The phone shook in his hands. 4 months of rejection, of paperwork, of watching his daughter grow weaker, while bureaucracy ground forward, ended with one text message. Approved. Monday. 3 days away. Daddy? Amara appeared in the doorway, concerned. Why are you on the floor? Marcus looked at his daughter. She stood there in her snowflake pajamas, holding her stuffed rabbit, looking worried about him. Always worried about him, even when she was the one who needed saving. Come here, baby. She crossed the kitchen and settled into his lap, the way she used to before she got sick, before illness made every position uncomfortable. He held her carefully, she bruised so easily now, and pressed his face into her hair. Remember the medicine trial we've been hoping for? The one that might help the monsters go away? Yeah, that one. His voice cracked. They said yes, you're going to start on Monday. Amara pulled back to look at his face. Really? For really real? For really real? She threw her arms around his neck and Marcus felt tears finally break free. He'd held them back for months, stayed strong, stayed positive, stayed functional. But here, on his kitchen floor with his daughter in his arms, he let himself break apart. "Is this because of your friend?" Amara asked. "The lady with the serious face? Evelyn." "Yeah. This is because of Evelyn. I liked her. She didn't talk to me like I'm a baby." Marcus laughed, wiping his eyes. "No, she definitely didn't." They stayed on the floor as the soup cooled on the stove. Through the window, Marcus watched snow collect on the back fence. The weather forecast called for the storm to continue through the weekend, 3 days of heavy snow before Monday arrived. 3 days until Amara's treatment began. 3 days that felt simultaneously infinite and impossibly short. Later, after Amara fell asleep clutching her rabbit and whispering about being brave, Marcus texted Evelyn. "I don't know how to thank you. Her response came 20 minutes later. "Don't. This is what should have happened 4 months ago. I'm sorry it took so long." He stared at the message. An apology from a CEO, an acknowledgement of systemic failure. He typed, "You didn't cause the delay. I run the company. The responsibility is mine." Marcus sat on his porch despite the cold, watching snow fall through the streetlight. His neighborhood was quiet working families, small houses, people who understood struggle. His world was so far from Evelyn's glass tower and corporate power, yet she'd reached across that distance. Not because of politics or publicity, but because she'd seen his daughter and remembered her sister. Because pain had carved out a space in her that demanded action. His phone buzzed again. "How is she feeling tonight?" The question surprised him. CEOs didn't check on individual patients, but Evelyn wasn't asking as a CEO. "Hopeful. For the first time in months, she's hopeful." "Good." A pause. Then, "Get some rest. Monday will be difficult." "Will you be there?" The response took longer this time. "Yes." Marcus exhaled slowly. Outside, the snow fell heavier, but the cold didn't bite quite as sharp. Inside his small house, his daughter slept peacefully, and for the first time since her diagnosis, Marcus let himself believe in spring. Monday arrived with gray skies and fresh snow. Marcus dressed Amara in layers, her favorite purple sweater, warm leggings, snow boots with fake fur trim. She'd been too excited to eat breakfast. "You ready, baby?" Amara nodded, clutching her rabbit. "Will it hurt?" "Maybe a little. But they'll give you medicine." He'd learned not to lie about medical procedures. "And I'll be right there." "And Evelyn?" "I don't know if." He stopped. Through the snow, a figure emerged from the entrance. Evelyn Wright, wearing dark slacks and a cream sweater instead of her usual corporate armor. She carried 2 cups of coffee. She walked directly to their car and tapped on the window. "You came," Marcus said as he opened the door. "I said I would." Evelyn handed him coffee, then crouched to Amara's level. "Good morning. Are you ready? Will you stay with me?" "Yes, the whole time." Evelyn held out her hand. "Come on, let's go fight some monsters." Amara took her hand without hesitation. The research center was nothing like Marcus expected. Instead of sterile white, the walls featured soft blues and greens. The pediatric wing had murals of forests and oceans. Oversized chairs and bookshelves filled the waiting area. "I designed this space," Evelyn said quietly. "After Claire died, I promised myself that if I ever had the power, no child would face treatment in a room that felt like death." Dr. Hammond met them in the consultation room, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and efficient manner. She explained the protocol. Baseline testing today, first infusion Wednesday, continuous monitoring. The treatment is intense, Dr. Hammond said, addressing Amara directly. You might feel tired, maybe a little sick, but we'll be watching you very carefully, like how Daddy watches me at home. Exactly like that, except with more machines. Dr. Hammond smiled. Want to see the treatment room? The infusion suite was bright and warm. Large windows overlooked a courtyard where snow covered a small garden. Child-sized recliners lined the walls, each with entertainment systems and privacy curtains. Only 3 other children were present, a teenage boy reading, a young girl coloring, a small child sleeping. You'll sit here, Dr. Hammond indicated a recliner by the window. See, you can watch the snow. Amara climbed into the chair. It dwarfed her, making her look impossibly small. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Evelyn moved beside him. The first day is always the hardest. You've done this before? I sat with Claire through 37 infusions. Her voice remained steady, but her hand briefly touched his shoulder. You don't get used to it, but you get stronger. The initial tests took 2 hours. Blood work, vital signs, scans. Amara was brave, cried only once when the IV went in. Evelyn distracted her with stories about the snow fox from her book. By the time they finished, Amara was exhausted. Marcus carried her to the car while Evelyn walked beside them, holding Amara's rabbit. Wednesday? Marcus asked. Wednesday, Evelyn confirmed. 7 a.m. I'll have breakfast waiting. As they drove home through the snow, Amara fell asleep in the back seat. Marcus glanced in the rearview mirror at his daughter, then out at the gray sky. The winter wasn't over, but maybe spring was possible. Wednesday's infusion lasted 6 hours. Evelyn arrived at 6:45 a.m., with coffee for Marcus and hot chocolate for Amara. She stayed through the entire treatment, reading aloud from the Snow Fox book, holding Amara's hand during rough moments, discussing strategies with Dr. Hammond during breaks. Friday brought the second infusion. Amara was more tired this time, more aware of what was coming. But Evelyn was there again, consistent as clockwork. By the second week, a routine had formed. Marcus would arrive at 6:30 a.m., find Evelyn already in the treatment room preparing Amara's space. She'd bring snacks, books, small distractions. During the long hours of infusion, they'd talk quietly while Amara dozed. You don't have to keep coming, Marcus said on day 9. They stood in the courtyard while Amara slept under warm blankets. Snow covered the garden paths, pristine and untouched. You have a company to run. I have excellent people running it. Evelyn wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. This matters more. She was quiet for a long moment. When Claire died, I was 17. I sat outside her hospital room because I couldn't watch anymore. I missed her last hour because I was too afraid. Her breath misted in the cold air. I don't miss hours anymore. Marcus understood then. This wasn't charity or guilt. This was Evelyn fighting a battle she'd lost decades ago, trying to save one child the way she couldn't save her sister. She's responding well, he said. Dr. Hammond says her markers are improving. I know. I review her charts every night. Of course she did. Marcus smiled despite himself. No. But her mouth lifted slightly. Do you ever stop worrying? Not since Amara was born. They stood together in the snow, watching through the window as nurses checked Amara's 4. The courtyard was quiet, except for the soft sound of snow falling through bare branches. The text really was meant for someone else, Marcus said suddenly. A teacher at my school. Sarah. She's nice, normal, safe. And you're telling me this because? Because every time you show up, every time you hold my daughter's hand, every time he stopped, unsure how to finish. It's not safe. Evelyn turned to face him. What isn't? This. You. The way I'm starting to feel when you walk into the room. The admission hung between them. Snow continued to fall, soft and relentless. Marcus waited for her to pull back, to retreat behind corporate professionalism. Instead, Evelyn said quietly, "I know." 2 words. An acknowledgement, not an answer. "I should probably go back to Sarah," Marcus continued. "She's uncomplicated. She doesn't carry the weight of my daughter's life in her hands. She doesn't make me feel like what? Like I'm standing on the edge of something terrifying." Evelyn's expression softened fractionally. "I spent 20 years building walls. I don't know how to do this without them." "Then don't." Marcus met her eyes. "Just stay. Keep showing up. Keep reading to my daughter." "That's enough, is it?" Before he could answer, Dr. Hammond appeared at the door. "Marcus? Amara's awake. She's asking for both of you." They walked back inside together, not touching, but closer than before. The ice was beginning to crack. Slowly, carefully, but undeniably. The confrontation came in week 3. Marcus arrived for Amara's Tuesday infusion to find the research center in chaos. Security at doors. Staff in urgent conversations. Dr. Hammond intercepted him in the lobby. The board called a special session about the trial expansion. What expansion? After dismissing Daniel Hastings, Evelyn reviewed all rejected applications. She found over 300 qualified children who were systematically denied. She approved them all. Dr. Hammond looked grim. "The board is threatening to shut down the entire trial." Marcus felt the floor tilt. "They can't. Amara's treatment will continue." Marcus didn't wait. He found the administrative wing and took the elevator to the top floor. The boardroom was easy to find, raised voices carried through expensive doors. Marcus didn't knock. Evelyn stood at the head of a massive table, facing down 12 board members. Her expression was carved ice. "Mr. Johnson," she said calmly, though her eyes flashed warning. "This is a private meeting. My daughter is downstairs getting treatment that might save her life," Marcus said. "Nothing about this is private." An older man stood. "Security." "Let him speak," Evelyn cut in. "He has more right to be here than most of you." Marcus walked to stand beside her. "I'm a high school history teacher. I make $48,000 a year. I am exactly the kind of person your trial coordinator decided wasn't worth saving." He met each board member's eyes. "Daniel Hastings rejected my daughter because I'm black, single, and poor. He rejected 300 other children for similar reasons." "And you're angry that Evelyn fixed that?" "We're concerned about fiscal responsibility," the older man said. "Miss Wright unilaterally tripled our trial costs. She saved 300 children at unsustainable expense. Then sell something. Cut executive bonuses. Fire people who share Daniel's views." Marcus's voice rose, "Because if you shut down this trial, you're telling every parent out there that only rich kids deserve to live." Silence filled the room. Another board member spoke carefully. "You must see the larger picture. Right pharmaceuticals cannot function on emotion." "My sister died when I was 17, Evelyn said quietly. The room went still. "She died because the system decided she wasn't worth the expense. I built this company to destroy that system. If you want to reverse my decisions, you'll need to remove me as CEO." The older man leaned forward. "That can be arranged. Then arrange it. But I control 41% of company shares. My removal requires a 2/3 vote. You'll need at least 3 more board members." Evelyn's voice was steel. "Any volunteers?" No one spoke. "The trial expansion stands. If you want to discuss cost management, we'll meet next week. For now, I have a patient waiting." She walked toward the door. Marcus followed. Behind them, the board erupted, but Evelyn didn't look back. In the elevator, she finally exhaled. That was reckless. The text message or the board meeting? Both. But her mouth curved. "Thank you. For what? For showing up. For fighting." She met his eyes. "For reminding me why I built this company." The doors opened. Amara was waiting. 6 weeks after that mistaken text message, Amara completed her 15th infusion. The changes were undeniable. Color had returned to her skin. She'd gained weight. Her energy lasted through full days. Dr. Hammond's reports showed her immune markers stabilizing. Marcus watched his daughter run through the courtyard, actually run chasing snowflakes with other children from the trial. The March snow fell lighter now, spring threatening at winter's edges. "She's doing remarkably well," Dr. Hammond said. "If this continues, she'll return to school after spring break." School, normal life, things Marcus had stopped imagining. Evelyn appeared beside them, carrying coffee as always. She'd been here for every infusion, every difficult moment, every victory. The board had backed down. The trial expansion proceeded. 300 children were receiving treatment. "The snow's almost done," Evelyn observed. "You sound disappointed," Marcus said. "Winter has always felt easier than spring." She sipped her coffee. "Spring requires hope. And hope is hard. Hope is terrifying. It means believing things can be better. That wounds can heal. That ice can thaw." They'd been dancing around this for weeks, the connection growing stronger with each shared hour, each quiet conversation. "Sarah asked me out again," he said. "The teacher I meant to text." Evelyn's shoulders tensed. "What did you say?" I said no. He set down his coffee. "The truth is, I'm in love with someone else. Someone brilliant and terrifying and completely wrong for me." "Wrong how?" "She's a CEO. I'm a teacher. She lives in a glass tower. I live in a house that needs a new roof." He met her eyes. "She saved my daughter's life. How do you build a relationship on that kind of debt?" "You don't," Evelyn said quietly. "You build it on something else." "Like what?" "Like the fact that you're the first person in 20 years who made me want to show up somewhere that isn't work. Like the fact that when you walk into a room, She stopped. "I've spent 2 decades building walls. You've somehow gotten past all of them." Marcus felt his heart hammer. "I accidentally sent you a flirty text. Best mistake you ever made." She kissed him. Right there in the courtyard, with snow falling and children playing. It was brief, careful. A beginning, not a conclusion. When they separated, Evelyn looked shaken. "I don't know how to do this." "Human?" Marcus smiled. "You've been doing it for 6 weeks. Amara's voice rang across the courtyard. "Daddy! Evelyn! Look how high I can jump!" They watched her leap through the snow, laughing, alive. So impossibly alive. "She's going to be okay," Evelyn said softly. "Thanks to you. Thanks to science. And timing. And a mistaken text." She looked at him. "I want to try this, whatever this is. But slowly. I can do slow. Can you do complicated?" "I'm a single dad with a sick kid. I invented complicated." Evelyn laughed a real laugh, not the professional sound she used in meetings. Later, after Amara's infusion finished, his daughter asked from the back seat, "Daddy, is Evelyn your girlfriend now?" "I don't know yet, baby. Maybe. Would that be okay?" "Yeah." Amara yawned. "She reads the Fox story better than you do." Marcus laughed. "Thanks a lot." That night, Marcus stood on his porch watching the snow thin. The forecast promised warmth by weekend. Spring was coming. The winter that had threatened to consume them was finally ending. His phone buzzed. Asterisk? Dinner this weekend? Just the 2 of us? Asterisk. Marcus smiled and typed. Asterisk. Thought you wanted to go slow. Asterisk. Asterisk. Slow. Not stopped. Asterisk. Outside, the last snowflakes fell through streetlight. Inside, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in years, not just hope for his daughter's survival, but hope for his own life. Hope for love. Hope for spring. Sometimes the biggest mistakes led to the best miracles. Sometimes a mistaken text message changed everything. Sometimes winter ended exactly when you needed it most.